at Parashah Shlomo, and this is the first Parashah that I wrote Dvar Torah a few years ago. It was my ex-wife's mother, unfortunately, her first yortzeit, and I decided I'd write a Dvar Torah in her memory. And after I wrote it, I realized wait, I could write a Dvar Torah. It was kind of like I didn't really know that till then. And fast forward, unfortunately, my mom passed away, and I kind of committed to doing every single week. Became a whole project, and then this is the second of the books, and then it became a whole series. So her name, this is Ilu Nishmat Yehudas Chava Bat Yaakov Dov, and she was actually tied into this parashah because this parashah we shift as a nation, as Bnei Israel, from sort of having everything taken. We're almost taken care of for us. We're almost like babies, we're like splitting the sea happened, but mainly like the manna and everything's just being taken care of, and we're shifting towards a space where we actually have to start taking care of ourselves. Yehudas Chava, my kid's Bubby, she was so full of tzedakah and chesed and just loving kindness, like these things that these words actually mean, like the depth of them she really embodied and elevated all of those around her. She had 11 kids and so many grandkids. And in this parashah we learn that giving confers dignity and receiving does not, in a sense. And it's really, we're talking about when we're building the Mishkan and when we're giving charity, and really like how that elevates us, and really focusing on that. Here, I think we could jump into the pasuk. Before that, even thinking about Breshit and the psukim, even the amount of detail and the amount of psukim that are dedicated to the creation, to Hashem creating the world, there's only around 34 psukim. But when we're talking about the Mishkan, what we have to do to create our own sort of the dwelling place for Hashem, but creating it ourselves to elevate, there's hundreds of psukim. Because the Torah, it's not for Hashem, it's for us. And that's why there's so much detail. And when we think of the Mishkan, it seems kind of like this interesting concept of there's like a finite space that we're creating for the infinite, but the infinite exists everywhere, but we're creating this one space that's kind of dedicated to it. It's like this weird sort of concept. When you think about it, it's like almost contradictory. Rabbi Simcha Zissel of Kelm, he shares something amazing. And if you think about sort of the nose, like the nose that we have, it's one space, and smell comes through this one space, but our whole body enjoys the smell. So it's a similar thing where he's drawing this analogy where the Mishkan, it's one space that we're kind of building for the Shekhinah, for Hashem to dwell, but Hashem's everywhere. It's just one space, and it's really for us because we're finite, so we're bringing in the infinite. And it's also parallel, I think it comes out of a little bit, the desire with the golden calf. It's like once we had that, Hashem was like, okay, they need something physical in this world, and it sort of came as like almost like a tikkun for this. And the other incredible thing that Rabbi Simcha Zissel brings down is with the discovery of electricity, we realize that light and the potential for light is everywhere. It's really just our action to bring the revelation of what is concealed that reveals that light. And in that same way, we're trying to bring in Hashem at all moments. Hashem's always there. It's a matter of bringing what's concealed and bringing the revelation to it. In here, this parashah, where Hashem's instructing Moshe, and of course all of us, to bring these gifts, and terumah is a gift, and the gold and silver, which comes to mitaken the golden calf. And the pasuk, it says, Daber el bnei Israel v'yikchu li terumah me'et kol ish asher yidabnu libo tikchu et terumati. So speak to the Israelites and have them bring me an offering, take my offering from everyone whose heart impels them to give. So the question here is, grammatically, you would think it's vayitnu, to give, rather than vayikhu. Like that's kind of weird. Take a portion for me. Well, one of the things we learn is that Hashem, everything in this existence, especially if you're thinking about money, it's like we think that, I have this, you have this, and there's this obsession with money and getting and taking money and holding on to money. But that's like the perfect example, because money comes and goes, and we see this all the time. So we don't actually own it. It's just this illusion of this separation of who has what, and this is what I have and this is what you have, and this sort of obsession of this separation. And of course, in this life, we're trying to, it's yichudim, we're trying to bring everything together. And there's this story actually of the Sultan and this Torah sage, and they were actually very close. There were so many people that were always trying to come up with, conspire against this Torah sage. And so they told the Sultan, they somehow convinced him that this rabbi is evading taxes, he's lying about his money and saying all this stuff. And eventually, when that's the whole thing with Lashon Hara, like you bring truth to something, even if it's a lie, if you keep repeating it and the person starts to believe it. So this Sultan came to this sage that they were super close, and he asked him, tell me what possessions do you have, what money, like tell me the worth of this. And the Torah sage had told him this amount, and the Sultan knew, no, there's no chance. Like, I know that you have so much more than this. And so he thought, like, okay, they must be telling the truth. And he threw him into prison. And time passed, and he's thinking, can't be. I know this rabbi, we were so close, and he's such a tzaddik, he's such a righteous person, he would never lie, I've seen him in every situation, I know he's righteous. So he came back to him, and he was like, okay, let me give him a chance to, let me confront him, let me give him a chance to explain himself. So he said, like, how could it be? Like, you told me this amount, there's no chance now. And the Torah sage said, look, as you see, the money that you're counting, I don't even have. It's all been taken away. The money that I told you that I had, that amount is the tzedakah that I gave. That's the only thing that I claim that is mine, because that can never be taken away, because that was given. So this is a concept that we need to think about when it comes to tzedakah, when it comes to our relation to money, when it comes to giving rather than taking, and always trying to receive. And moving on, the next pasuk is Vayasu li mikdash v'shakanti b'tocham. So this is, the Shla actually points out something here, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe expounds on it. It's a lot of Chabad Chassidim, bring a lot of epic Torah from this, because it's grammatically another thing that we're looking at here. You would say bitocho, if you're making a sanctuary, then Hashem should dwell in the sanctuary. So the famous question and the answer of that is bitocham, really that it's like the sanctuary is that we become, the idea is to elevate ourselves so that we're each these sanctuaries for elevation, for revelation of Hashem. And then Hashem could dwell in it. So the more that we make space for Hashem, and looking at charity, it's the more that we give, it's the more space that we're creating for Hashem to dwell within us, and for Hashem to be within our lives. And the Mishnah Torah, this pasuk, even a poor person who derives his livelihood from charity is obligated to give charity. It's stuck out to another person. It's kind of it almost seems contradictory. It's like, wait, this person is the one we're supposed to give charity to, so how is he going to give charity? But here we realize that it's not only a physical act, it's a psychological act. And when you're giving, you're elevating the other person. So even this person has that mitzvah to elevate another person. And terumah, meaning it's a gift, so the root, liromem, to elevate, that's the thing that's happening. We're elevating, and we're bringing Hashem into both our own lives and into the next person. And when we give tzedakah, it's also mamtika dinim, so we're sweetening judgment. And you actually see that. I was just sort of like farbrengening with one of my chavrusas, David Ben Yehuda, and we were just talking about that. And then I went to Glaudmart, and I was like giving tzedakah to somebody, and like you see, they go from this sort of lowly place of like hopelessness to feeling hope in that moment, and you're like giving them life. So it's really about that. And there's this Chassidic story. There was this rich person, but he was miserly, and he gave R Shlomo of Radomsk a good amount for his pidyon, and this rabbi actually needed it badly, but he refused and gave back the money. And everyone's asking him, like, what do you mean that, like, you need the money? This is this rich guy who's giving you the money, and why would you give it back? And he said, if you saw the glee that he had when I gave back the money, you would have understood, and you wouldn't have taken it yourself either. So an important lesson is, just as important as giving is the act and the way in which we give it. We have to give it with love, and we have to give it with a full heart. And I'll finish on this. One of the things that really sticks out when we're talking about offerings to Hashem, the korbanot, Hashem always writes in the psukim, it's written, person who gives it, whose heart compels them to give. So it's always this focus on, it's not just giving and being commanded to give, it's like giving with your full heart. And that's what Hashem wants. Because it's not about Hashem needing to receive, it's about Hashem pushing us to give. And that's when we can elevate. Shabbat Shalom.